Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you here this evening. Let me tell you a bit about myself before I get started with Mr. Patterson. My name is George Washington Patterson. I was born the 11th of November in the year of 1799 in a small community called Londonderry, New Hampshire. I was the youngest. Somebody gave me this thing. I don't know how to shut it off. That may do it. I was born the 11th of November in the year of 1799 in a small community called Londonderry, New Hampshire. I was the youngest of small children, born to Thomas and Elizabeth Wallace Patterson. I received a common school education and graduated from Pinkerton Academy in New Hampshire. At the age of 18, I taught school in New Hampshire for 3 months before moving to Livingston, New York, with my older brother, where we ran a successful business dealing with the manufacture and sales of fanning mills. Y'all, or do any of you remember what fanning mills are? I didn't either. I'm sure you are curious as to what a fanning mill is. A fanning mill is one of the earliest farm machines which, through a process separating the grain from the lighter chaff and straw with the breeze, created by wind or flapping a bedsheet, a hand-cranked fan blows the grain and chaff across vibrating screens, and while the heavier grain kernels fall through the screens, the chaff and straw is blown out. It was quite a successful piece of equipment in its day. I don't believe there's any still working present day. I must say, however, I cannot take any credit for this. It was first patented by Benjamin Dutton Beecher in 1816, which ultimately led to the evolution of modern farming. I engaged in the manufacture of fanning mills in Genesee County until 1825, when I settled in Leicester, Livingston County, New York. Question of the night: does anybody know where Leicester County is? Oh, I got one. I had two the other night, and that's all we've had all week. I couldn't find it. But the most important thing that happened to me in 1825 was the marriage to my wonderful and lovely sweetheart, Hannah Dickey. We then had our first child, George Washington Patterson, and all of these children and father and mother are right behind me, right here. We then had our first child, George Washington Patterson II, who was born in 1826, and my daughter Hannah Whiting Patterson was born in 1835. I served as a member of the New York State Assembly from Livingston County in 1832. That extended for 2 years. Our family moved to Westfield in 1841, and that was when I took charge of the Chautauqua Land Office. William Seward appointed me land agent of the Chautauqua Land Company, and I remained land agent until there were only a few parcels left. I purchased those and closed the company. I was also Lieutenant Governor of New York from 1849 to 1850 under Governor Hamilton Fish. I was chairman of the Harbor Commission at New York, which led me to be quarantine commissioner of the Port of New York in 1859. Now, if you've never been there, the quarantine commissioner is a person that examines everyone that gets off the boats that are coming into Ellis Island to make sure that they don't have any foreign bugs or any diseases or anything that they can bring to the mainland. And if they do, then they get back on their boat and they go back to where they came from until they're fixed, cured. That sometimes was a little tacky, but that's what it was. I'm proud to say that I was supervisor and president of the Board of Education for many years. Politics really interested me, so I was elected as Republican candidate in March of 1877 to the 45th United States Congress for the 23rd District of New York, in which I served for 2 years. I had to retire from Congress as I was not feeling well. I started to feel extremely weak and run down. The foods that my wife would make for me no longer tasted good. I just wanted basically to lay and rest. Unfortunately, I passed away at my home 7 months later on the 15th day of October, 1879. I felt fulfilled both in my personal and professional life. I was very proud of my family. My son George Patterson became a successful banker, and his business partner John Hungerford, the brother of Sextus Heman Hungerford, and my daughter Hannah, who bequeathed money upon her death in 1894 to found the Patterson Library for the people of Westfield, New York. If you're not from Westfield, you might go by the library on Portage. It's never changed, except for one thing. When I was growing up here, they took our sledding side away from the end of the library, and you had to make a sharp turn, or you'd hit those columns, and you made a sharp turn this way, and then went down into the field that was there. For all the years we did it, no one ever got hurt, but they took it away from us. But they turned it into a children's playground, an area for them, a learning center, so it did pay off for something else. And so his daughter paid the full amount to get that library built. So now, if you don't mind, I'd like to thank you for coming. I hope you've enjoyed this little information that I have for you. Maybe gave you some you didn't know. I did have one little lady, young lady last night on one of the rides. Yeah, kids get antsy when they want to ask a question, especially girls. That don't want to shoot that hand up there. And I said, "Do you want to ask me something?" And she said, "Yes, please." I said, "Okay, ask away." She said, "Why is only half your cape snapped and the other half isn't?" She said, I told her, that's a reason, and that's a good question because most people don't know. If you are right-handed, you will snap the right side so that if you have to use it or if you have to reach across, you won't pull yourself and this side of the cape into whatever food or drink or whatever it is. If you're left-handed, then you snap the left side. If you don't need to because it's not going to go anywhere. And that's the reason your cape gets snapped. With that, I'm going